getting into the meat of the episode now. NFL, Dallas Cowboys. Basically, big news, right? Dan Quinn, we kind of knew was in the running for a lot of head coaching jobs. I think you and I both thought it was going to be Seattle, was kind of going to be where it ended up, but ended up going to a division rival in taking the head coach job for the Washington Commanders. And in turn, the Cowboys hired a new defensive coordinator, thank goodness, to get Dan Quinn out there, and Mike Zimmer, who previously, way back in the day, I think it was Bill Parcells' era. He worked for the Cowboys. And then he was most recently the head coach for the Minnesota Vikings. Sorry, Minnesota Vikings in Minneapolis, Minnesota. So yeah, man, what do you think? How is that going to kind of make a little bit of a change from what we've seen with Dan Quinn? Pros, cons, kind of all that stuff.
It's going to be hopefully put the defenders in just like a different headspace.
Yeah, that's facts.
Because all the videos I've seen is like Mike Zimmer just chewing the fuck out of everyone out. And I feel that's what they kind of needed, is like being held accountable. And a little bit of like how Micah was talking about it. There was this interview, I think Trevor Lawrence or DeMarcus Lawrence was talking about how he was tired or something. I didn't hear his part, but I heard Micah's part.
Yeah, weak.
He didn't really, he didn't like that. He's like, no, like you should be, I don't like being around that type of culture. So it's, the whole media is just kind of like throwing it against Micah. And it's like, oh, so you do not like DeMarcus Lawrence? Do you want him out?
Yeah, okay.
And hopefully they just fight it out. It's probably just media being media. I mean, it's the Cowboys, especially Michael Parsons gives the media almost every single day something to talk about because he's always talking. But I mean, I like to hire Mike Zimmer. Hopefully, like I said, just drill some shit into their head and stop being so soft, because I feel like we've been soft for a pretty long time. I think we're all talk. I mean, even Micah. I mean, he's calling something the lion or whatever, and then big games happen and you disappear. And also with Dan Quinn, I mean, also we're all talking about, recency bias. I mean, the last three years we were top 10 at least defense. We were loving him when he's. I mean, that's the thing with sports, and that's the thing that you have to know what you're getting into. I mean, we're gonna love you at your highest, and we're gonna hate you at your lowest. I mean, true or not true, with any sports team.
Facts.
We're always gonna be there, and then for the good ones and the bad ones, but we're gonna make sure you know when it's the bad ones, and especially with the Dallas Cowboys. I mean, I don't know how many times we have to say it, but I mean, it's always going to be America's team, whether you like it or not. People are watching you. They want you to lose. That's the reason we get viewerships. That's where you get most primetime games, no matter how bad we are. So,
yep.
I think we were a little harsh on Dan Quinn, but I mean, I'm on your boat too. It was like, get him the fuck out of here. Getting dropped 40 points at home is insane.
You need a change at some point. Is ultimately kind of what it boiled down to.
Mm-hmm.
I was, looking at stats of Mike Zimmer, and I want to say when in Minnesota, 5 of his 8 years they were top 10 in defense, or in like top 10 in points against, which is consistent, right? Which is good. That's kind of what we need. And I want to say he was also first in 2015 or 2017, one of those 2 years. And then the other thing that was big that I feel like is just such a big issue with this Cowboys team is just discipline and penalties. And each of his 10 years with the Vikings, I want to say 8 of those he was within the top 10 least most penalized teams.
Wow. Yeah, that's massive.
Really, like, it helps in regards to just kind of instilling a sense of discipline to the team, right? Not to say that Big Mike doesn't instill that, but I think the big thing is, like, Dan Quinn is obviously, right, such a player's coach, somebody that is ultimately like loved by all these guys. Like, maybe, Mike Zimmer, the hard ass that's like jumping on you whenever you make a mistake, that's going to yank Sam Williams whenever he, roughs the punter. That's going to, like, you know what I mean? That just like has that little bit of like hard-nosed football that maybe that's what the Cowboys need. They need somebody to get in their ass and to really like say, hey, like, figure it out. Like, come fix it. And, you got it. It's all about the details, and that's what separates the winning teams from the losing teams, is the little bitty itty bitty details, and that's something that Mike Zimmer can help with. So I like.
Yeah, it. And I'm assuming Mike Zimmer is going to be on the sidelines, right? Since Dan Quinn was on the booth.
Yeah, he's.
So I don't know if that makes a big difference too, because, like, not that I'm opposed to it. I mean, it's kind of like, I mean, every once in a while you see offensive coordinators or defensive coordinators up in the booth. But maybe he is like ripping them apart. So, like, hey, pick up the phone. He just yells at him, whatever. Okay, cool. You just kind of put the phone down.
Yeah.
Okay. But what do you do when he's there and he's pointing you out and he's calling you out in front of everyone?
Exactly.
So I don't know if that, I mean, I don't know. That's probably something like just small, but that could probably definitely help. And I think it'll show if it's just the players that are being stupid and just causing all these penalties, or if because I don't know, because I feel like a coach can only do so much for
No, I
penalties.
know.
Yeah.
I agree, and at the end of the day, right, it also is on the player. Like you can say, like until we're blue in the face, like we need to make a coaching change. We need to make a coaching change. But at the end of the day, it's the players are the ones that are going out there and making the plays, and the players aren't getting it done. That's on the players too. And I
Mm-hmm.
think that the players need to have a little bit of accountability and say, hey, maybe we were the ones that are for the reason why we got embarrassed at home. And I think that that's something that, maybe Mike Zimmer helps instill a little bit of accountability that maybe hasn't been there, or,
Mm-hmm.
eliminate some of that weak mindset of say, man, we were tired, blah, blah, blah. Like, no, like it's the playoffs. Like, it doesn't matter how long the season is. Everybody's played 17 games at that point.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody's tired. So, I mean, somebody's got to figure it out. And you got to eliminate that weak mindset. And it's just a whole mentality thing that, like, all right, it's the playoffs. Like, now it's the time to be a fucking killer. Like, now is the time to go out there and dominate in the show, like, who we are as a team. And it's exactly what we didn't do. We just folded whenever the stakes got the highest. So, yeah, I like the hire. I think it wasn't somebody that was necessarily on the top of my list,
Mm-hmm.
but I'm also like, yeah, I think it's, there's only one way to find out if it's going to work, and I think that it's a good shout. So I'm cool with it.
Yeah, so I was happy with it. It was him, and then who was the other guy? And then I think because Mike Zimmer too doesn't have a good
Was it
history
Wink
against like
Martindale?
Yeah, I
Against,
think it was.
the old Giants defensive coordinator, which I'm glad I would
Yeah.
rather have Zimmer than
No,
Wink.
me too. Like I said, I need someone just hard hit football, and then it was Zimmer that that's good against the Shanahan tree too.
Yeah, he's good.
Okay,
against
so
the
that's
Shanahan-
massive.
the-
That's
yeah,
massive.
exactly.
That is
And
massive.
then I think another thing that I thought was good about it was retaining Al Harris, the defensive backs coach.
Oh yeah.
I mean,
he was
that's
a hot
somebody
name.
that's like clearly like in the last couple years, right, since we've had Trey Diggs and Deron Bland
Mhm.
and all that stuff. Like he's helped and developed these guys, so that's somebody to retain that we needed.
I saw that coming from a mile away. If you're on the YouTube, this is funny.
I was trying so hard. I felt it coming, and I was like, all right, let me finish my thought.
But if you're just listening, I just saw this man. Also, just like keep wrinkling his nose, and I was like, "What is this? This guy have a twitch that I did not know about?" And I saw him put the hand on the mic and just let it rip.
Had to.